All right, year to date, the S&P 500 is down almost 2%. The equivalent Russian stock index, called the MISEX, is up almost 50%. Given that comparison and President Obama's attempts for closer ties with Moscow, is this the right time to invest in Russian stocks? Or should investors focus on the fact that compared to a year ago, the Russian stock index is down 64%? Also, obviously, we have trouble if you look at that comparison on the S&P. Joining us now is John Connor, portfolio manager for the third Millennium Russia Fund. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Great to be here.
Let me ask you, first of all, about the big news issue here with President Obama over their meeting with President Medvedev and CEOs of Russian companies. What are you expecting? What are you hoping to find out from these meetings?
Well, you know, we just had a downer recently where Russia, after 16 years of negotiating entry to the World Trade Organization, has withdrawn their application. They're practically the only major country. They are the only major country in the world that's not in this WTO. So I don't know. I think the Russians are kind of retreating into their historic sclerotic state where they're not into dynamism and change. And maybe President Obama is showing them that, you know, we care a little bit and that we're not completely hostile to the Russians, which is how they view us. Maybe things will loosen up a little, but that doesn't mean you still can't make money in the stock market in Russia.
Well, let's talk first about the political situation. Obama, obviously a successful campaigner over here. How is he doing there in Moscow?
Well, quite frankly, you know, Russians are not, they don't look with favor upon African Europeans, African Americans. They're, you know, have a history of little racism there. He's pretty magnetic. His words sound good. I think they're a little cynical about America at this point. They feel beaten up, surrounded by NATO. They were promised we wouldn't do that. We've done it. You know, this whole Star Wars business, putting missiles in neighboring countries, Poland and the Czech Republic, you know, they find that a little bit hard to take. I think they're feeling pretty aggrieved, neglected. You know, let's face it, the president has a lot more important priorities nowadays. Arms control would not be a Russian priority, but they responded to President Obama's priorities. And most of the things they would like to talk about, we say, are non-negotiable. So I'm not really sure how much of a positive impact this trip can have.
All right, but you don't think that that has a negative effect on the investment climate. Why is that?
Definitely not. I think, you know, the price of oil, the two themes, my mantra last year was the domestic boom economy in Russia. And, of course, that's taken a hit with the decline in GNP there as well as our own country. And unlike India and China, they're not still growing this year. So right now it's back to the price of oil, which, you know, is very volatile, but it's been very positive. Our fund has been tracking it. We were down 15% at the beginning of the year. Then we went up 70%. Now we're still up 40%. So the price of oil has pretty much been the story. And commodities in general, you know, fertilizers and steel even exports are pretty strong from Russia in steel.
Well, and you do see also big foreign companies investing in Russia. You know, Brendan just talking about Pepsi, and I think they're putting $4 billion into a bottling plant there.
$2 billion, yeah. Well, you know, Russia was scheduled to be the biggest car market in Europe until, you know, this decline in GNP. I'm not sure where it is right now, but the consumer area, all the stuff Pepsi makes, and John Deere is playing on the infrastructure as well as agribusiness in Russia. They've got all these black earth agribusinesses that are coming alive after years of neglect. So it's definitely a lot of potential for American companies. And Boeing, of course, relies on high-end engineers and titanium fabrication from VSMPO. So, I mean, there are a lot of individual. Look Oil is building a refinery on the East Coast with Conoco. So it is moving in the right direction, but slowly.
John, only about 30 seconds. Are you concerned? Bill Browder was on yesterday from Hermitage Capital saying he's concerned about the corrupt political climate there, and obviously that's been a problem for a number of investors. Are you concerned about that?
No, Bill has had a very unfortunate experience. He sued everybody under the sun over in Russia, and they finally had enough of him, and they yanked his visa. I don't think his characterization is fair. I've lived and worked in India and elsewhere, and I think Russia is very European. And sure, there's corruption. I'm from New Jersey. I know all about corruption. So I think that is overplayed, frankly, but
Touché.
It plays well in the press. You know, nobody likes Russia. The left doesn't like them. The right doesn't like them. So that's the way it is, you know.
All right. Hey, John, thanks very much for joining us. John Connor there, portfolio manager at the Third Millennium Russian Fund.